you moisturize consistently, your skin improves. Then, suddenly, it doesn't. Maybe it took 2 weeks. Maybe it was a month. But there was a moment when you realized the routine that was working has stopped working. Your skin feels dry again, uncomfortable again, maybe even worse than before. You haven't changed products. You haven't changed your routine. You're doing everything the same. And yet somehow your skin has gone backward. If you've experienced this, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not imagining it. This isn't random. This is one of the most common patterns in extremely dry, reactive skin. It happens so frequently that if you ask 10 people with sensitive skin about their skincare history, at least 8 would describe some version of this exact experience. Here's what typically happens. You start a new moisturizing routine. Maybe you've researched the best products. Maybe you've invested in something specifically formulated for sensitive skin. You apply it diligently, morning and night, exactly as recommended. And for a while it works. Your skin feels softer. The tightness eases. The visible dryness improves. You might even start to feel hopeful that you've finally found something that helps. Then, gradually or suddenly, the improvement plateaus. Or reverses. Your skin starts feeling dry again, even though you're still moisturizing. The discomfort returns. You might notice your skin looking dull or feeling rough again. Your first instinct is probably to question the product. Maybe it's not as good as you thought. Maybe your skin has gotten used to it. Maybe you need to switch to something stronger, richer, more expensive. So you try a different product. And the cycle repeats. It works for a while, then it doesn't. And you're left wondering what you're doing wrong. But here's the truth. You're probably not doing anything wrong. And your skin isn't getting used to the product. Something else is happening. Something more subtle and more important. This is the moment when many people lose trust. Not just in products, but in themselves. Because when something works and then stops working, the natural response is to assume you did something wrong. You must have changed something. You must have missed a step. You must not be consistent enough, careful enough, diligent enough. So you start second-guessing everything. Did I use too much? Too little? Should I have applied it differently? Did I skip a day without realizing? Is my water too hot? My towel too rough? My pillowcase the problem? You start tracking everything obsessively. You buy more products, thinking the answer must be in the right combination. You spend more money, more time, more mental energy trying to solve a puzzle that shouldn't feel this complicated. And underneath all of that is a quieter, more painful thought. Maybe my skin is just broken. Maybe nothing will ever work for me. Maybe I'm just destined to feel uncomfortable in my own skin. This is the emotional cost that doesn't get talked about enough. It's not just about dry skin. It's about the frustration of doing everything right and still not seeing lasting results. It's about the exhaustion of constantly searching for the next solution. It's about the deep, quiet discouragement that comes from feeling like you're failing at something as basic as taking care of your skin. And here's what makes this particularly hard. When you talk to friends or look online for help, you often hear that consistency is everything. Just stick with it. Give it time. Don't switch products too often. But you were consistent. You did stick with it. You gave it time. And it still stopped working. So now you're left feeling like either the advice is wrong or you're somehow failing to follow it correctly. What you need to hear is this. The problem isn't your consistency. The problem isn't your products. The problem is that what actually causes moisturizing to stop working is something most people never think about. Here's the pattern that almost no one sees coming. Improvement changes behavior. When your skin feels uncomfortable, you're hyper-aware of it. You're careful. You're consistent. You protect your routine because you're desperate for relief. Every morning and night, you remember to moisturize because your skin is constantly reminding you it needs it. But then, your skin starts feeling better. The discomfort fades. The tightness eases. And unconsciously, gradually, you start to relax. You don't mean to change anything. You certainly don't decide to stop caring. But when your skin feels comfortable, it's no longer sending you urgent signals. So other things start to take priority. Maybe you're running late one morning and you decide it's okay to skip your morning moisturizer just this once. Your skin feels fine anyway. Maybe you're exhausted at night and you convince yourself you can get away with a quick routine instead of your full one. Maybe you go on a trip and forget to pack your specific products, but you figure a few days won't matter since your skin has been doing so well. These aren't conscious decisions to abandon your routine. They're tiny, seemingly insignificant adjustments that happen naturally when you stop feeling discomfort. And individually, they might not seem like a big deal. But here's what's happening underneath. When your skin is extremely dry or reactive, it needs consistent, sustained support to maintain its improved state. The moisture barrier that started to rebuild when you began your routine doesn't just stay strong on its own. It needs ongoing reinforcement. When you start introducing small breaks or inconsistencies, even unintentionally, the barrier starts to weaken again. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually those small gaps in your routine start to add up. And before you realize what's happening, you're back where you started. The cruel irony is that the very thing you were working toward, feeling comfortable, becomes the thing that undermines your routine. So the real issue isn't the improvement itself. Improvement is good. Feeling comfortable in your skin is the goal. The real issue is what happens after the improvement. The subtle shift in attention, the gradual loosening of routines, the tiny interruptions that seem harmless but aren't. And here's why this matters so much. Most skincare advice focuses on finding the right products or learning the right techniques. But very little attention is paid to what it actually takes to maintain results once you achieve them. Everyone talks about consistency, but usually in the context of stick with it until you see results. What's often missing is the conversation about what consistency means after you see results, about how to maintain a routine when your skin isn't actively uncomfortable anymore. Because that's actually the harder part. It's relatively easy to stay committed to something when you're in discomfort and desperate for relief. It's much harder to stay committed when everything feels fine and you're busy and distracted by the rest of your life. And for people with extremely dry, reactive skin, this is where the pattern breaks down. Not because the product stopped working, not because the routine was wrong, but because maintaining the kind of rigorous, uninterrupted consistency that very dry skin requires is genuinely difficult, especially when you start feeling better. So, what does this mean for you? It means that understanding this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. When you recognize that improvement can trigger behavior changes, you can start watching for them. You can build systems that help you stay consistent even when your skin feels fine. You can anticipate the moments when your routine might slip and plan for them. But there's another layer to this. Because even if you stay perfectly consistent, there's still something else that can undermine your results. Something that happens more often than most people realize. Something that has nothing to do with whether you're committed to your routine. It has to do with time, with gaps, with what happens to your skin during even small breaks in your moisturizing routine, breaks that might seem insignificant but can have a surprisingly large impact on extremely dry, reactive skin. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you have very dry, sensitive skin, even a single missed application can start a cascade that takes days to reverse. And understanding why that happens and what it means for how you approach your skincare can change everything. Next, I'll explain why even small breaks matter more than you think. Why missing one day isn't the same as missing one day. And what you can do about it.